So I remember the last 7 years when I was doing the jelly juice and then was intermittently on it, that I would see weird, like, things come up on my skin and then they would disappear. It'd be so weird. Like, I was thinking it was like a parasite that was coming to surface or something coming to surface and then being carried through the immune system, the lymphatic system. And then I realized, after writing this information that I just wrote, yeah, broken blood vessels. Broken blood vessels. Now, I had enough strong blood vessels in my body that I could sacrifice a few blood vessels to break and then repair itself. And of course, you have to eat food. You have to release demons to relieve the pressure on your blood vessels. That's why you have to relieve the pressure in your intestines when you're full of shit, when you have like a blocked up lymphatic system causing so much growth and cancer. Your gut, your immune system tells the rest of the vessels in your body how to act. And so if you have a constricted intestinal type of situation and it's not releasing demons and condition for expansion and contraction, then that also speaks to your blood vessels, your lymphatic system, every other system that is like an artery, a capillary, any kind of tube-like structure that is used to transport materials. And so your gut is your second brain, absolutely, and it sets the tone for the rest of your body, mind, and spirit, your cardiovascular system. And then I was thinking, oh my God, that makes sense. That's why I knew that pulling out the crap when your body has trouble doing that because of so many different situations, you relieve the pressure. Like when you're feeling bloated, you have pressure building up. You got to take a shit, find a way to pull out that crap. When you feel pains, you have pressure building up. When people have perforated intestines because of bowel blockage, they didn't have enough strength to push out that shit, which then told blood vessels and other places that it has to have the same kind of characteristic. Weak, porous, not trained for resistance. And then when the climate changes and the body is trying to gather strength to push shit through, to push plaque through the bloodstream, it tries so hard, it breaks. Blood vessels break. Internal bleeding happens. Perforated intestines happen. Even growth happens when your blood vessels are so constricted because of lack of fat, lack of conditioning, lack of so many things. And there are heart issues that talk about the thickening of the cell walls in the arteries, in the heart, in the cardiovascular system. And so you can have so much constriction that'll stop blood flow. It's in your intestines, also in your heart. And you can have so much expansion that then there could be a weakness, not enough resistance. Okay, and so you have to be balancing between the two. But I knew that clearing your upper immune system, using your coughing and sneezing and blowing your nose, and yeah, pulling out the crap down there, especially during aggressive times, is going to help relieve the pressure. But people don't want to even think about that because they're so squeamish. But they don't understand that your gut is your brain. And again, it sets the tone for your blood vessels that are being forced to expand and contract because you haven't conditioned your body to do that on its own. What people do is they rely on herbal remedies. They rely on medicine. They rely on the medical holistic system, to the therapies, to either thin the blood or force or vasoconstrict or vasodilate. See, I can drink coffee and it's fine, even though coffee can constrict blood vessels, but I have enough conditioning to not allow that to actually work against me. But when people are at such deficit and they're not bringing in all the nutrition, then things that are used as a therapy, as a vasoconstrictor and a vasodilator, actually works way too good, and it works against them. And many people are sitting ducks for that. And I knew that the cannabis industry was so deadly. I didn't know how to explain the science, because people are using cannabis because they feel pain. Why do they feel pain? Because there's probably a lot of blood coming through because of all the particles that they're exposed to, and they're not conditioning for release and retention. And so the only way they can handle life is to thin their blood, but that also causes breakdown in their immune system. And of course, some, I'll say ethnicities, some, would you call more melanin, less melanin? Yeah, well, that's the thing. You know, some look, well, I don't want to say look, how do I explain this? Well, anyways, cannabis has been kind of like a panacea, a cure-all. It's been used for so many different things. But in reality, cannabis has been used as a medicinal thing to thin the blood, and also condition the person not to condition themselves to deal with pain and suffering, and then use food. Because food will help reinforce the blood vessels. The pain and suffering is the body pushing all that jetsam and flotsam out into the filtration and then out the body. But I know they said they didn't do, the articles that I read about cannabis as a blood thinner did not go into detail of why it has those properties to thin out the blood. But having a thin blood is dangerous. Hemorrhaging. Okay? I mean, you look at the Phoenix Tears, that guy, he passed away, right? I think, yeah, he passed away. CBD is not something you need to be on forever. Cannabis is not something to be used on a continuous basis if you want to survive. So I knew that back in the 1930s and all the reefer madness, and yeah, you get artistic expression because you're tapping into hormones, giving you the four humors. What is it? The phlegmatic is neutral, and that wouldn't be from you wouldn't be a phlegmatic and a cannabis user. There's no way. A cannabis user will bring up the melancholy or use to assuage it, and it'll bring up anger. Oh, I see it in cannabis users all the time. Shit. As well as sanguine. Love, love, love. Okay, so cannabis users bring up certain hormones as well. It's a dopamine effect, a blood thinner. It is the artistic expression, which is why you get a lot of artists who will not get off of cannabis, because that is their bread and butter. That's what makes them feel good. That's their only way to get through, because their body is so painful as it's trying to push the demons out, and the person keeps resisting that. And through resistance comes breakage. And that's what that's sitting ducks. That's the rapture. The rapture is ruptured blood vessels. That's essentially what's going on. And that's a scary freaking thing, because we're heading into the mass rapture. And that's from a major frequency change and a bunch of people getting together, because we know that the inverse square law is, what's a pandemic? When someone's around somebody else and they catch a cold, they catch a virus, they catch microbes. But in an accelerated environment, those microbes become influential and causes immune system activation. Because you look at Woodstock 1969, everyone was hanging out together. Was there a mass pandemic back then? No, because the environment, even with the activity, people together, and they're exchanging bodily fluids, they're exchanging drugs, but there wasn't like a pandemic of 1969. What was a pandemic? It was the Vietnam War. That was the energy that people were dealing with. And all the music. So then you wonder, like, well, people getting together during this eclipse. Now they're bringing the National Guard and reinforcing a state of emergency. Blah, blah, blah. And you hear about the hype of the rapture, and I'm thinking the rupture. And I'm thinking like, oh shit. We're already in climate change. Influential viruses. Oh lordy, people don't know. And it's not even just over here, okay? What will happen over here is going to cause a worldwide reaction, just so you know. So those that are in Australia, those in the UK, those in New Zealand, those everywhere else watching us going like, oh, look at these stupid AMERICANS's. No, honey. What happens to us, if anything happens to us next week, will reverberate across the globe. So don't think because you're watching us prepare for this type of PURGE, okay, that you think you're home fucking free. Because what happens to us is going to happen to others, but they won't. Well, I would just assume that someone across the globe in Australia could feel something, because you don't know where those free rockets are going. You don't know what kind of ULF is going to be turned up and down, flipped. You don't know anything. Your environment is controlled by people. You have no idea when they're going to flip that switch. Let's go higher or lower. So I would not get too comfortable being wherever you are that's not in America. I would not get too comfortable ever. Ever. Don't ever assume because it happens over there, it won't happen to you or have something influences you. That's why when I'm watching these articles of people shitting their pants on the planes and people passing out at their desk and people, dying at childbirth, I'm like, oh gosh, if I don't listen to indicators and I know I'm not special, if I don't change the way I do stuff, it's not even just theoretically, oh God, that person shit their pants on the airplane. It might happen to me. I'm not flying anytime soon. But I already have the immune system to let me know and punish me for being around diverse company. I've seen, like I said, broken blood vessels. You can even see, which is so weird. I see it in the skin, where you see someone's like has a bunch of veins that are coming up from doing whatever, broken blood vessels. But you can repair those very easily. But over time, that actually weakens your infrastructure, weakens your immune system, having broken blood vessels all over your body from your lifestyle, malnutrition, drug use, alcohol use. And so when you're under a false sense of security because you're not exposed to a higher amount of frequency and whatever else, and you're out there like, oh, nothing's going to happen to me, I'm immune, da, da, da. You don't know if someone's going to turn that switch up wherever you are. It doesn't matter where you are. And one day you think everything is great until it's not. See, that's why I'm saying, okay, if you feel okay now, don't get too comfortable. If you feel like, oh, I'm immune, I feel nothing, that's what the system wants you to feel, because when you do feel something, you may not fucking survive it. And that is so scary. That's why I was so reacting so heavily the last couple days, even going down to my basement, going like, what am I going to do to reinforce my basement from all the ULF and infrasound, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking like, you know what? You're not going to know when that shit gets turned up. You'll know, you hear about NASA doing stuff, and you know about CERN, and you know about maybe the HAARP, but allegedly maybe they've closed down. I saw rumors of that they closed down HAARP. Who knows? But I'm thinking like, you're never going to know when something's going to happen as far as a frequency turn up and you feel something. Though I see the climate change. When I felt yesterday, when it got from hot to cold, I felt it. And I had to release some demons. Today I feel great. It's cold. What is it, 37 degrees? I wasn't even that cold. I took a shower. It wasn't that cold. Usually I'm freezing around 37 degrees, but it's like 68, 67 in the house, and I feel fine. My core temperature is pretty much regulated at 37 degrees. Is nothing. Before it would have been something. But I feel okay. But wait till it gets hot again. Then I'm going to feel something. My husband's going to come home Saturday. I might feel something. It's the climate that's going to change. So when it's so hot outside, those of you that say, oh gosh, Arizona is so hot. Right? Arizona is so hot right now. 89 degrees. Oh my gosh, it's only like, what is it, April? That right there is going to work against you. the heat is going to work against you. And then when it gets cold really fast, it's going to work against you. The aggressive barometric pressure rising and falling is what's going to get people. It's going to cause blood vessel breakage if you're not conditioned. That's why when I feel my heart palpitations, I don't try to stop it. People have felt heart palpitations and they're taking their high blood pressure medicine to lower their blood pressure, and they're passing out. They finally get off the blood pressure medicine and they're not passing out anymore. Oh yeah. When you're seeing those that get massively dehydrated and they have to go to the hospital and have their blood pressure monitored because it's too low from dehydration, then they're getting fluids called sodium chloride, saline, vitamins, nutrition in their IV blood fluids, IV fluids. Yeah, the saline, the salt, actually brings up their blood pressure so they don't fucking die. Yeah, it's pretty scary what people have been conditioned to accept. It's very fucking scary. And so when I'm saying, okay, so I made that cabbage soup last night, put a bunch of salt because I worry about my husband. I absolutely fucking worry about him. Okay? And so, and I know he's not on low sodium diet, but he's out there. He's on vacation. He's traveling, doing whatever. He's a warrior. And so I made some chicken soup and I made cabbage soup. The chicken, I broke it apart last night because I boiled it and I put a lot of salt in it and I put it in with the cabbage and the carrots. I put the broth in the refrigerator because that'll stay for however long. But I put the soup, the cabbage soup in the freezer. And so, you know, if he passes out or throws up or shits his pants, he might break a few blood vessels from a frequency change. Because I don't know how aggressive it's going to be. But he probably has enough to spare that he could survive it. But there are people out there that don't have enough blood vessels to spare. Don't have enough substance to them to deal with surviving, throwing up. Why would someone throw up? Because they're holding so much antigen and foreign antibodies that the body is dying to release, and people keep resisting their body from releasing. And so when the atmosphere gives the immune system just enough energy to push out whatever is in the body, and people are forced to throw up or shit their pants, some will survive, others won't. And then, yeah, blood vessels also break, and you hope you have a strong enough brain and a strong enough heart and other vital organs to withstand that aggressive purging process. That's why everyone was so scared for everyone back in the J world in the beginning, because we were preempting what was set to happen, this pandemic. But we were using salt and people were not getting enough salt. So it actually helped regulate some people and caused their immune system activate in other people. And you had then a rainbow and a diverse reaction to what was going on. I got the love, I got the hate, I got it all. But now you're going to find that you're going to need that salt. And you're going to need to survive the purge process. Some won't. Some have been smoking so much cannabis. Some have been on their diets for such a long time. Some are on their drugs, prescription drugs. Some are hanging by a string. And it's only going to take one more frequency change to cause a purge process. They don't have enough blood vessels and nutrition to spare, as the body keeps trying to push out what it doesn't need. And of course, they don't have enough substance, enough reinforcement, enough insurance. That's died suddenly. That's why you can't afford to be on your freaking diets. Gluten-free, sugar-free, salt-free, only organic. So you have these skinny people that won't have enough energy to convert. You have really huge, overly abundant people that may get smothered by the rapid growth. You have those who have heart, what is it called when you have the thickening of the heart walls? Heart condition thickening of the heart walls. Oh yeah, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. So you think about people who work out all the time and everything. Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. What is that? It is so a healthy heart is a muscle that pumps blood around the body by contracting and relaxing, right? A thickened heart wall, the heart with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, may have difficulty pumping blood around the body. As a result, those with HCM can experience a lack of energy, a fast heartbeat, chest pain, and other symptoms. And so a thickened heart wall could actually even cut off blood circulation. And so that's why they experience higher blood pressure, because the body is trying to force that blood through until it can't anymore. The thicker the wall may not directly block or reduce blood flow, but that's non-obstructive. But obstructive, blocked or reduced blood flow, obstructive wall thickening. So no matter what, we have people who are conditioning their body not to do what I mean, how are they getting the thickening of the, well, that's the thing. There's probably a cascade of reasons of why a person has a thickening of the blood wall. And it's not just from one thing. It's from so many factors. Hormonal imbalances, lack of nutrition, obesity. Maybe they're working out a lot. I mean, because your heart's a muscle and you're working that muscle so hard, and then it becomes so. That's the thing. You don't want to work so hard that your muscle becomes, that the heart muscle becomes so thick. So when you think about those that are athletes, those, let me see, hold on. Are athletes and body builders susceptible to hypertrophic cardiomyopathy? In athletes and non-athletes with HCM, there are two hypothetical concerns with respect to exercise. Exercise-related worsenings of the phenotype promoting hypertrophy and fibrosis and or triggering arrhythmia. The former concern is unproven, and animal studies suggest the opposite effect, where exercise can show to be protective. Not necessarily, but hey, okay. Athletes with hypertrophic. What causes hypertrophic in athletes? Other conditions that can cause cardiac hypertrophy include valve disease. And see, that's the thing. They're not mentioning the atmosphere. So they're, of course, climate, your environment, has everything to do with you conditioning to open and close, like exercising, right? So you can have internal exercising, which is feeling the heart palpitations. And you can have external exercising. So journals of physiology.org is not taking into account climate change. They're taking information prior to this crazy pandemic, and they're saying, well, you should then do all these exercises. That's going to help promote, non-hypertrophic and whatever. It's supposed to do the opposite. Well, in this, remember, science is never settled. So even though this says that the exercise and all that worsens the phenotype of promoting hypertrophic and fibrosis and or triggering arrhythmia, well, we're realizing that even the VHCC-INESs in a highly accelerated environment is causing people to potentially make correlation equals causation for whatever issues that come out. So no matter what these journals say, remember, science is never settled, and what atmosphere and what environment are they referring to? And everything that you're seeing in these journals, until they actually say, well, in this environment that is a lower frequency, then and you need to have some kind of activity, yes, you'll need the exercise. But in a higher frequency environment, such as this, where you're feeling the heart palpitations, you are exercising your heart without having to lift a finger. That's what I'm saying. That's why I feel like strong. Because you see, I don't go anywhere, right? You see, I don't go out there and exercise. I don't go and run. I don't go join a gym. But when I feel my heart beating so fast, and I feel the muscle pains, and I feel on my lymphatic system pushing all the excessive growth throughout my body, and I'm feeding myself also, that's a type of internal conditioning exercising, no different than those who are talking about athletes, non-athletes, and all that. And so as far as the hypertrophy, to even do exercise to then regulate hypertrophic myopathy, says that something must be moving. Okay? And so if you do an exercise in a slower frequency environment, or even chest compressions, you're moving something. When you're feeling the environment causing a reaction to your heart, you're moving, and you're not trying to stop. You're not trying to resist it. Okay? So it's all physics, but you have to take into account the atmosphere that you're in. And these medical journals that might be older than a few years are not factoring in climate change. But they didn't anyway. Even with the VACCINESs, they didn't factor in climate change. Now people are like, oh gosh, what if these VACCINESs are causing then excessive growth? Because the atmosphere and climate change is causing excessive growth. But hey, when you get something injected or get something inhaled, is the injected more aggressive than inhaling? I don't know. Have they done the studies? Because even people out there that haven't been VHCCINES or D'd are still dropping like flies, getting the same conditions as those that had the V's from the same atmosphere. Okay? So, yeah, blood vessels popping. And that's some crazy shit, man. That's some crazy stuff. But I had to read that because no matter what you read from the medical journals, remember we're in climate change. And climate change must be a factor. And so just because it says that maybe you have to do an exercise in this environment, you could be over-exercising because you'll be doing things double time. That's why athletes right now are dropping like flies. That's why athletes right now are so skinny and just muscle that there's so much resistance. How are they going to be able to expand and contract? Not enough fat. They're burning so much fat at a highly accelerated amount of time. Athletes are. That's why they're dying on the field. That's why there are defibrillators in the high school gyms. So the rapture is ruptured blood vessels, particle acceleration, old diseases coming up like whooping cough, and blood thinning, vasodilation, vasoconstriction via herbs and cannabis and supplements. And that's, so when I Googled herbs or supplements that vasoconstrict and vasodilate, oh my God, I saw garlic, I saw other herbs that people use and supplements people use to vasoconstrict and vasodilate based upon their intention. They feel pain, and so they're like, oh yeah, here, take this. And so either vasoconstrict or vasodilate based upon the intention. And so I heard through the grapevine, many people all over America is descending upon the path to totality. S-A-R-R is R. I always get those mixed up. To totality on April 8th for the Great Eclipse. And even more so over here in Ohio. Though I have heard over 1 million are traveling to Indiana, but I cannot confirm that. Wow, this type of ritualistic gathering reminds me of Burning Man, held last August, September, the last time I had my menses. And effigizing human sacrificial rituals of nakedness, drunkenness, illicit drugs, and artistic expression. So now you see, drugs and artistic expression go hand in hand. Alcohol and artistic expression go hand in hand. highly sexualized people and artistic expression go hand in hand. Yes, the hormones is what gives us those aggressive hormones. The choleric, the melancholic, and the sanguine give us the artistic expression and also what we do for a living. Okay? So along with all of that was rain and mud puddles, lockdowns, and at least one person bleeding from their nose or something to that effect. So when it was raining so much and people were stuck, their vehicles were stuck and everything it was just bad. And they were held there for a certain amount of time until, I don't know, I remember exactly, but people then started going. But someone did die, or I don't know if they died, maybe they got injured, who knows, but they were bleeding. And so that ritualistic gathering also got myself and other conspiracy theorists squawking about Ebola and other diseases. But Ebola seems more on the forefront given we have been warned another pandemic is looming on the horizon. Aside from the strain, what is Ebola really? Well, here's the answer no one really wants to focus on. It is ruptured blood vessels. People bleed from all orifices as well as suffered internal bleeding. So when you're watching Outbreak with Morgan Freeman and Renee Zellweger, Renee, whatever her name is, Russo. And they're going into the Congo and they're wearing their chem warfare gear and they're looking into the huts and people have blood come out their nose, out of their ears, out of their eyes. You're like, holy shit. That was planting a seed. But that was from ruptured blood vessels. Why in that little village? Oh, that's where the birth of the virus. Well, yeah, Ebola. Yeah, there's viruses all over. There's bacteria all over. Native to Africa, Asia, America. Okay, but what makes them so deadly? It's the influence. It's something influential. It was given an energy that caused them to be so influential that those that had the weaker blood vessels, and I couldn't tell you what blood type they were, I don't even know if that matters at this point, but in that specific area, let's say hypothetically they received a bit more ultra low frequency and it activated something that was already in that region, and there you go, you have now a type of pandemic that then people see, they make that correlation equals causation, and there's the fear. Oh, absolutely. But just like over there in Marin County, the high amount of breast cancer. I remember that in 2012. Oh gosh, Marin County has such a high amount of breast cancer. It's all these Stepford wife mothers. And I know everyone's under experimentation. So you can only imagine a high amount of frequencies over there brought up a specific strain of cancer. People were afflicted. Go into the hospital and they see a pattern. Oh my gosh, we have a pandemic. Well, we have a type of situation over here in these Caucasian women. But why only there? It wasn't like they're native to that region. California is full of transplants. And it's because they had a specific genetic marker that was influenced in that specific area. But it wasn't like that was the only area that people had that genetic marker. It just happened that it was influenced in that specific area. It was a control group. But you can't tell that to the general population. They're not scientifically minded because they don't understand control groups and isolating frequencies. Now I figured out with the whole ULF, isolating frequencies. But even beyond the ULF, you can just have energy turned up somewhere based upon something, and you'll see a high amount of cancer. That's why those are next to power lines, right? Next to energy transistors areas, whatever you call them. Transformers. So many transformers in this area. People are living next to it. And they're getting higher rates of cancer. Yeah, because it's activating the opposing forces. They can't get ahead of it. And those opposing forces take over and cause then, and they don't have enough release process. They're not eating for that area. They're not eating for being next to those transformers. And so they die from cancer. And there might be even a specific genetic marker or not. It just depends on, if it's just energy, then it just brings up whatever. But if there's specific frequency, algorithms might actually, like a snake charmer, right? There's a certain frequency that the snake, the cobra, comes out and dances to, right? You know about those in India. So you can only imagine certain frequencies, there's certain decibel levels, will snake charm some of people's microbes they hold inside that weren't activated, but in a different frequency that might be activated. See, there's so many factors that people don't even realize because, well, you know how shit goes. And so, anyways, aside from the strain, what is Ebola really? Well, here is the answer no one wants to really focus on. It is ruptured blood vessels. People bleed from all orifices as well as suffered internal bleeding. Yikes. Fast forward to today, after researching who might be susceptible to heart attacks and strokes. Next week, due to so many factors people cannot see, only feel, I realize shitting one's pants or throwing up is no different than a person bleeding out from weak ruptured blood vessels due to their lifestyle and state of health from a major frequency change. Then I started researching what health situations people are in regarding their prescription drug use, their supplements use, their cannabis use, and even their lack of nutrition. They're on diets. They have to look skinny, hot, and sexual. Okay? Aha! I found that using herbal remedies, cannabis, diets, statins, heart medication, diabetes, etc. all contribute to weak blood vessels, forcing the blood vessels to vasoconstrict, vasodilate, when it was not conditioned to, therefore causing blood vessel weakness and, rupture. Okay? That's therapy. It's RAPE. You're forcing something or someone to do something against its will. It wasn't conditioned to do something, whatever you're trying to do to your body internally. And so predators do that to people who are weaker than them. They do things against their will. That's why you have a lot of predators in our society, and that's why we have the medical industry internally using therapies, and that's what INJECTIONSs are. That is therapy, RAPE, of the skin of your immune system, forcing it to do things it was not meant to do until it was needed to be conditioned to do. And you have to condition yourself to do that. But people don't, because they are pincushions for science. If they sign on the dotted line, they're okay with being a human experiment. So even more importantly, many herbs, supplements, and blood thinners thin the blood so as not to condition the vessels to become stronger. And of course, malnutrition contributes to blood vessel weaknesses. Consequently, when the environment develops more energy causing excessive growth due to accelerated particle action, the blood vessels that are too resistant will break, and blood vessels that are too porous will also break because they're weak. Hence, too much resistance causes breakage, not enough resistance. The energy is free-flowing, pooling, bleeding under the skin, bleeding internally, bleeding out of orifices. So Ebola and the frequencies is the most aggressive of bleeding out of the orifices, but then you have little spots like the elderly and even myself when I saw, something come up on my skin and then disappear the next day. And even many years ago, I saw a little life thing come out and dive right back into my skin again. That was a trip. Okay? So fast forward to present day, the mass gatherings of people who are a rainbow of health conditions traveling to hang out together will not only leave themselves open for more diverse microbes to get in, but also succumb to the rapture of the ruptured blood vessels. I can see the system and all the frequencies the mainstreamers know nothing about use the eclipse to declare another pandemic due to whatever storyline fits the fears of the general population, i.e. bacteria leak, migrants, etc., etc., etc. I'm so glad I don't get too many views on YouTube or even on my Facebook, because I don't want to get in the way of this system doing what it's doing, because if I do, when you become too influential like that, knowing what's going on, yeah. So I'm glad they have lessened my viewership, because you're seeing people out there not even aware of how this shit works, walking into danger. Even people around me that know me walk into danger. They don't listen to my information. They think I'm stupid. And that's what's crazy, is I'm watching people that know me personally just be like, yeah, whatever. She's not smart. She's dumb. She's whatever. And it's crazy. It's crazy. But whatever. What are you going to do? Right? And so then the invisible frequencies of ULF potentially could bring up certain diseases that were on ice for so many years back to life and circulating as the environment gives those viruses power. Virus is vital information resource under siege. See, I heard somebody in the religious world say that viruses don't exist. I'm like, you know what a virus is? It's a conglomeration. It's a colony-forming unit of a conglomeration of diverse species that work together, developing immune system activation in people because they can only activate another organism. That's what viruses are. They're a conglomeration. And they're not, and I would say they are, all viruses are alive. People say that they're dead. Well, they're only alive based upon what they influence. So they could be a ghost. But it's a conglomeration of energy that's activating. And that's the thing. It's what brings, see, how do I say this? It's an energy you can't see, like ULF. I mean, you can see dark matter. But when people get together, right, they don't see the force that brings them together. But there's a force. It's gravity. It's invisible energy. So think about a virus, a conglomeration that says it's not live. It's only live when it hits the person. Then it's energy with frequency that activates things and brings them together. So there's actually because when I say conglomeration of bacteria coming together, right? Bacteria coming together, you're assuming that it's live, but when in reality, what is bringing everything together? It is a force. It is the positive and negative that bring together, break apart, and certain things come together, and they have, I mean, there's so many factors that bring people together and drive them apart. Oh, that's something I have to write down. Holy shit. Okay, hold on. Viruses are diverse microbes with specialized contributions that are brought together by an invisible force, and that invisible force is dead, because viruses are not alive, viruses are dead. Yeah, viruses are dead. What is it? It's been a while since I read this. Yeah, it's been. So they're not alive. That force, that the invisible is dead, and that invisible force is dead, but only is alive when it influences, when the frequencies in that virus influences certain bacteria to do what it is programmed to do. That was what was missing. Because when you see, So viruses are diverse microbes with specialized contributions that are brought together by an invisible force, and that invisible force is dead, but only alive when the frequency hit in that virus influences certain bacteria to do what it's programmed to do. And that's what was missing. No shit. And that's why technically viruses are not alive. It's the frequencies. It's the frequencies that influence certain bacteria with certain algorithms. And I just got this. Even though viruses are not alive, but you're like, well, they're all like bacteria. Aren't bacteria alive? They're not dead. That's... How do you explain that? I just finally, 8 years later, 7 years later, I just figured the fucking viruses are. They're vital information resource under siege. And so viruses are diverse microbes with specialized contributions that are brought together by an invisible force, and that invisible force is dead, but only is alive when the frequencies in that virus influences certain bacteria to do what it's programmed to do. That's a mouthful. That's what zero is. From 0 to 100, 0 is that invisible force. That's the God energy. I don't even say God particle because it's not even a particle. Particle implies that there's something that's mass. Jeez, this is crazy. So that's why you've been feeling so many weird, that's why I would feel pain I would feel so many different pains. All of us have been feeling so many different pains in different areas of our body. Sometimes it's the same because the frequencies might be influencing certain parts of our body that have certain algorithms. Because your heart and your lungs and your kidneys all have certain bacteria and algorithms and frequencies that they are influenced under. And then when the body wants to release the demons, right, that's the immune system. And so you'll figure out that even certain frequencies activate the immune system to do a purging process. And that's why you get people throwing up and shitting and breaking blood vessels. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my flipping God. Because yeah, I mean, so I'm glad I'm technically right, yes. But again, what was confusing is saying that viruses are a bunch of bacteria together, but there's a missing step. There is something else that's missing that. What was missing? Oh, it was the force that brought them together. And that's the thing about groups. What was the force that brought them together? With my husband and I, what was the force that brought us together? Well, it was sexual. It was voice. It was so many things. And then we had to develop from that. What brought you together with all your friends and family and your activism? There's a certain force, a certain energy that caused like minds to come together until they change and evolve. And then some people disengage, others just keep spinning in their death loop. Jesus. And so, yeah, that's what people don't realize. That's the invisible force that's going to drive people apart as well as bring them together. And that's why it's kind of too late now. People have already, they're wow. Wow. Jesus. I don't even know what to say. Yeah, because when I said virus, all right, hold on a second. All right. And I just discovered this. I just discovered what a virus is and what gives them the influence. It's the frequencies. And why they have different names, because certain frequencies, I already kind of knew, but how do you explain it? How do you say it in so many words? How do you? How do you say it in so many flippin' words? Because it's a step-by-step process. Action, reaction, action, reaction. But where was the initial action to cause the reaction? And you don't live in a vacuum. And if you can't hear it, and if you can't see it, but you can only feel it, but then you're told that all these things to blame why you're feeling this way, then you got to go wade through all of the beliefs and the explanations. It's like wading through a bunch of shit until you get to the actual answer, and then by that time it's too late because you're wading through so much shit. All right, hold on. Okay, so there's that. I got that. Oh my lordy. Oh my lordy. Oh my lordy. I'm sorry, but I got to put this into the because I have to make sure, because that's what's the missing piece. There are frequencies that bring things together and drive things apart. And that's what you're dealing with. That's the rapture. That's the rupture. That's the great reset. That's everything. You're dealing with some very smart people. I gotta hand it to them. I gotta hand it to people out there in the science world. You guys are goddamn smart. Oh my God. And I wanted to be just as smart as you. Well, fuck yeah, I'm getting it, but that comes at a price. People think you're crazy. That's why the system didn't tell you everything, because then you'd know. Give me a minute. I'm just right now going like, oh my God. And so, just give me a minute. I just have to go and make sure I have this there. I'm just so dumbfounded. And it's crazy when you think of these things, when you discover these things at the 11th hour, it's too late for so many people. It's too late. It's too fucking late. And it's like telling them, well, this is how you're going to die. Have fun with that. How do you, yeah, that's what's so crazy is you're telling people how they're going to freaking die because it's too late for them. It's too late for many, many people. It is literally too late for them. And that's the double-edged sword of discovering this stuff at the 11th hour is they have no chance. There's no recourse for them because it's a conditioning process. You had to follow me and go through the bullshit with me and change with me. And if you didn't do that, then yeah, my shit would make sense, but you do nothing behaviorally to change the way you do stuff. And so then when you finally realize what I'm talking about, and your blood vessels are already weak, you're already doing all your drugs and alcohol and whatever else, and you're on diets and you have a lifestyle that people are going to pull you into because you've been beholden to them, there's no fucking way you're going to change. There's no way you're not going to be able to condition for this shit. There's no way. So I mean, essentially what I'm doing is telling people how they're going to freaking die once the frequencies become so aggressive. But if they start seeing things happening, you better be pulling shit out of your ass. You better start relieving the pressure in your intestines to then set the tone to make sure your blood vessels are also free flowing. Then you got to feel the pain in your arms. That's your lymphatic system. Oh, yeah, never mind. People are not going to, no, they're not going to deal with that. But that's essentially what I was feeling the last 3 years. The headaches, the crazy dreams, the hives, the rashes, the feelings of dis-ease, the fatigue, the hunger, the feeling a little bit crazy when the frequencies. I mean, I remember when I was at the DMV a couple years ago or whatever, and I feel like I was drunk because the frequencies were so insane. When I was changing the light bulb with my husband, he took the light out from wherever, and I thought that he opened a portal to hell. That's how I characterized it. And I felt this weird feeling like a beam just hit me, and I felt my body tingling throughout the top part all the way down to the bottom. And I had a feeling of an urgency to having to go shit, and so I shat up in the bathroom. I didn't spontaneously shit, but that's what's going to happen for some people. They're going to spontaneously shit. They're going to might throw up. They might have broken blood vessels. And so my husband has spontaneously shit before. Luckily, it was in a good place to do that. So he's felt it. And I told him, just keep eating, just keep eating. I don't think he's thrown up, but he has fainted way back in the beginning. But I've told him, keep eating, keep eating. Don't treat disease, just keep eating. If you have to shit, of course. Throw up if you have to throw up. Don't resist anything that your body's trying to do. You have to eat. But some people are not prepared for that. Fuck, oh my God. That is what's crazy. Jesus. All right, so, and as far as, oh no, hold on. Hold on. I have to read the rest of that. Oh my God. Okay. All right, let me just go back to what I was reading. Oh my lordy. Okay. Oh my God. Yeah, telling people how they're going to die is freaking insane. It's freaking insane. And so I'll read this. Virus is vital information resource under siege, and they are a conglomeration of viruses, parasites, protozoa, proteins, fungus, and bacteria, and they can be activated when influenced by certain algorithmic frequencies. And so then you're saying that they're dead and they come to life? No. Viruses are diverse microbes with specialized contributions that are brought together by an invisible force. And that invisible force is dead, but only alive when the frequencies in that virus influences certain bacteria to do what it's programmed to do. Okay, so virus really is after the fact. When that energy, fuck, all right, I gotta, hold on. Oh my God. All right, you're seeing how I think, okay? When that energy influences certain bacteria to do what it's programmed to do, thus called a virus. Thus called a virus. And that's exactly what a virus is. Okay, just give me 1 second. I've got to correct this. Yeah, so I'm glad the book I have out is what it is, because it's like, it's very vague, the book I have out now, but it tells you how I dealt with it. As far as what viruses are and frequencies, I've made inferences, but I never said anything specific or definitive, because you can't make claims, you can't make accusations, you can't say absolutes, because you can't prove it. If you can't prove it, don't fucking put it in there. So, jeez. So the book I have out now tells you what I did to save myself, but as far as who's doing what and when and making claims and who's the enemy and all that shit, yeah, you leave that one alone, because you don't want to be one of those that were like, oh, unalived. No. That's why I'm glad I have a very low following. Very low following. And by the time this information does go out, it doesn't matter. People will be dead. People will be dead. And it is what it is. What are you going to do? Even people next to me don't even understand. Maybe now they might understand, but it's too late. It's too late for some people. They had to understand where I was coming from. And believe me, even without all the information that I had, they'd had to believe me at least 3 years ago and change. But they didn't. They're like, yeah, Jillian's stupid. And I don't blame them. And I can't really fault them. But I feel bad. I'm telling them how they're going to die. I really do feel bad. But do I really? Yeah, I do. I'm pissy that they didn't want to trust me, but they're told not to trust your peers too much. They're told not to look at anything but mainstream or officials. And I get that. I understand that. But you have to have discernment. And you're not taught discernment. That's just not programmed to people. And then, So I just was like a little pissy around that. So viruses are diverse microbes with specialized contributions that are brought together by an invisible force, and that invisible force is dead, but only is alive when the frequencies in that energy influences certain bacteria to do what it's programmed to do, thus called a virus. That's the action, reaction. See, and I skipped a few steps because I was missing that influence. What brought them together? Well, that's the ULF. That's what's crazy. It's the ULF. Certain ULF and certain things in the environment through all the different, radio frequency, it's all patent, yep. That's why you have to eat for your environment, okay? You have to eat for your environment, okay? And so, all right. And so many people do not have no idea who and what they're dealing with, which is why most activists, resistors, and deniers or mainstreamers are sitting ducks as they puff past their cannabis, drink their cocktails, gallivant and travel around like nothing is going on. Watching the news articles come through about shootings and explosive diarrhea on airplanes and die suddenly all over, I know if I don't straighten up and listen to indicators and change, that could be me. I'm not going out like that. Not that I would. Oh yeah, if I did that continuously. and then take the remedies and do whatever, so I didn't feel anything. But if I did that even one time out there, gallivant and do this and that, I could be caught up in a situation being dependent on someone who is under the influence or whatever, and they happen to pass out at the wheel and they crash a fucking car. I'm not going out like that. Now you see why certain people who are cannabis users look very similar. Elderly cannabis users look very similar. Caucasian, Black, Hispanic, Asian. There's a very specific look. Papery thin skin for Caucasians. As far as Black person with weak blood vessels, you won't know until you see something like Ebola situation. But we know hypertension and low sodium diets are indicators some have weak blood vessels. And when you're on low sodium diets, you have such low blood pressure, you could pass out. And a higher frequency and a lower frequency could expedite the situation. So when I was in Walmart the other day and it was a high ULF day, who knows? And I was feeling like I could pass out. I was seriously feeling woozy. I was feeling erratic. I felt like if I could have passed out, but I worked through it. But I felt like I was going to pass out. And I was so flippin' hungry. Like someone who's diabetic, who needs sugar. I had a drop in sugar, had a drop in everything from those frequencies somewhere circulating. My husband's like, what's wrong? And he's like nonplussed. He's totally Superman. But he has a lot more to him. He can sacrifice a few blood vessels. The 1960s was the kickoff. Highly sexualized people under the influence. Of course, the reefer madness in the 1930s gave them the ideas. And I knew cannabis was the major culprit. I just did not know how to explain the science because it was more than just one factor. There are a lot of factors. Artistic expression comes at a price. So you see why the 1960s and even Hollywood are all about illicit drugs, sex, rock and roll, hormone manipulation, animals, and all that stuff. Yeah, that's Babylon. Okay? That's Babylon. And that's crazy. That is freaking crazy. Oh my God. So you see pictures of somebody's hand, right? And you see there's a pooling of blood under their skin. Yeah, blood vessels broke. Maybe they hit their hand. Maybe they just woke up and their body went through an energy conversion. They didn't have enough strength in their blood vessels, and there's pooling under the skin. Then you see in some people's faces, the spider veins. Those are broken blood vessels too. Okay? I've seen that in my husband's face a few times. I'm looking like, what's going on there? Okay? Those are broken blood vessels. Then you have actual bruising. That's a major broken blood vessel. And that's probably from blunt force trauma. Can you imagine when the environment is like a blunt force trauma? Not literally blunt, but an energetic trauma that causes, some frequencies causes blood vessels and other things to activate, and people don't have enough of the conditioning to deal with activation. Whooping cough outbreak leaves 2 dead and 50 ill at popular holiday hotspot. And I said particle acceleration brings back old diseases and they will become stronger, antibiotic resistant, and deadlier. And yeah, have 3+ weeks for food, 3+ weeks of food and water. So someone posted this. Coincidence keeps piling up for April 8th total solar eclipse. People are just deniers out there like, oh, Jillian's fear-mongering. Ah. Locust broods after 200 years. National Guard. Schools closed. Red heifer ritual. Biblical prophecy of Jonah. Devil's comet. Advised to ration food water for 3+ weeks. CERN firing up Hadron Collider. Well, we're going to get the fallout from that test for March 27th come April 8th. Potentially even before that, but when you have that, plus the people coming together, that's a mass ritual of something, right? NASA firing 3 rockets called Serpent Deity, etc. So that I'm sure even will compound the issue. April 8th, solar, sun, moon, hashtag Ryan Garcia, hashtag solar eclipse. Okay, great for him. Sky, NASA, SpaceX. Okay, all of that. People are angry facing that. Well, yeah, what are you going to do? And then this guy Donut, I listen to him occasionally. He has an interesting accent. It reminds me of people in California. He has kind of an affect to his voice. He's interesting to listen to. What are food products preparing us for? The moon pies, solar eclipse survival kit, right? Chocolate something, chocolate mini. And then, of course, Donut was saying bridge collapse, 128. And then movie release of Leave the World Behind, 12/8. And other stuff that they were talking about. Maya nobility performed bloodletting sacrifices to strengthen a dying sun god during solar eclipse. Well, there you go. And then, I remember a couple months back, I watched The Purge a few times. And I'm like, oh my God. But then I'm thinking, like, if the lights go out, and the communications cut off, no one's calling the police. You call the police, you can't. No phones don't work. So then it's like, and actually right now we're preparing for is a type of purge. Just like in the movies, they're like, oh, this day, are you going to go out there for the purge? Oh no, I'm going to stay home and I'm going to barricade in my home. Oh, I'm going to go out there. I'm out there. That's what's going on right now. You're watching people saying, you're watching IFL Science. Saying, are you going to go out? Or not, well, even Cleveland 19. Are you going to go out for the eclipse? The eclipse is like basically the same thing as the purge. Are you going to go out there? You can go out there? I'm like, no, I'm staying home. I'm staying safe. I get likes for that. Someone else is like, oh yeah, I'm going there. Other people are like, well, I'm driving to work that day. I'm not looking forward to it. I'm like, oh my God. That's why you barricade your door. When the lights go out, you're not answering your door to anyone. You can't help people. You can't save them. Don't risk your life protecting anything but your own life. If you have firepower, make sure you use it if you need to. You have warned almost everyone in your world, hopefully, because they can't afford to be out there exposed and a target for somebody else. And people could die from heart attacks and strokes on the street. Many people are coming into town and you have no idea who they are. You realize that even because of where he's at, people in the world that he lives in, out there, that is out there, they're like, we're going to Ohio to go to the... I'm like, what? Holy shit. Many people are coming into town and there are a lot of rumors of major instability. That's why so much police presence and Coast Guard and the rumor of the whole Rapture and everything else. And many of you do not know who to believe. You're stuck in your fairyland. I wish I could help you, but I've tried to wake you up. And people are so adamant they think everything is great. It kind of reminds me of the zombie apocalypse. When the lights go out and all of you hear is a dull roar and a crowd of people getting closer and closer, gunshots, yelling and screaming. Yeah, you don't want to be out there, especially when you can't call the police. And the night will be even worse. Opportunistic thieves, thugs, and everything else, carjackings, robbers, people getting mugged. You must be at home because if you don't answer your door to somebody and they think that you're not home, they know you're not home, your house is getting ransacked. Someone's going to go break in. Who's going to call the police? There's no one to... You have to defend yourself. When there's no one you can call because the phone lines are down for whatever reason, it's between you and everything else. And you know you're not home, and they know you're not home. Your house is getting ransacked. Anyone who knocks my door, I will say, please go home. Yeah, right. I can't do anything here, and I'm not going outside, and you talk through your Ring doorbell. But if your Ring doorbell is stuck to the electricity and it goes down, but we have a battery-powered one. But don't answer your door and open it up. Don't. Why do you think they keep saying, make sure you have food, water, and fuel? Stock up on food, water, and fuel many, many times. Wake up. If nothing happens, great. But yeah, we get to live another day of limbo. If something happens, you're prepared. I wouldn't risk anything, but they already said there will be a lot more car accidents, people dying behind the wheel. Why would this system invest in so much in Summit County Sheriff and Butler County Sheriff warning people after going to that sheriff summit in D.C.? 3,300 sheriffs were told we are in a bad way. Butler County Sheriff, and there's that video. They wouldn't invest in the National Guard and the Coast Guard and the helicopters. They wouldn't talk about CERN, and the Florida Sheriff wouldn't tell you to be armed and ready for something if something wasn't brewing. You see, the system can't tell you everything for whatever reasons, so you have to be the one to choose. Once you've made your choice, you'll have to live or die by your choices. And so, yeah. And so when you see posts like, why the New York National Guard to help during eclipse but not in Watertown, Arkansas National Guard troops are ready to see the eclipse on April 8th, St. Albans City receiving reinforcement from the Vermont National Guard for their eclipse, Guard units may assist with solar eclipse, tourists facing dark times. And so then you think about Kent State, what happened then when people were protesting. Okay, there's going to be instability. It's going to be like, yeah, it's not going to be good. You don't know what's brewing. The Coast Guard in Cleveland has issued a bulletin regarding Lake Erie and the total solar eclipse. This is too many variables. Why would you put yourself in that situation? I wouldn't be out there. And so I said, hey, boiled cabbage and carrots, fluids are electrolytes and vitamins and nutrition. Okay, so you know about explosive diarrhea? The doctors will also monitor, so for people who are severely dehydrated, they go to the hospital. The doctors will also monitor you for low blood pressure. Okay, so severe dehydration is abnormal kidney function, rapid heart rate. Salt will bring up a low blood pressure, stabilizing the person. People faint and pass out from low blood pressure. Okay, so if there's explosive diarrhea and throwing up, will automatically cause a person to be dehydrated, lacking fluids, and you have to replenish them. So I have boiled cabbage and carrots and chicken and all that stuff. All right. Man, I'm hungry. Some evidence of instability in people going off the rocker. Customer pulls gun on Burger King employer after getting a discounted item. Okay? That's the thing, is you're dealing with people who are not thinking. They're not thinking with all marbles. The demons are going to come out, and you don't want to be caught in that situation. I would leave your dogs home. I wouldn't go out there. Yeah, PMDD. EMS is responding to Isabel Road in SCville for a male patient perpetrator with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Caller stated the weapon was thrown away from the PTS body, then disconnected the call. So people are unaliving themselves. All right. And so to my conspiracy friends and people in the J world who might finally wake up once the system flips the switch, mainstreamers, may the odds be in your favor as well. Next week, when the internet goes dark, phone lines are down, you are sheltering in place. Remember, it's between you and your immune system and the food you have around you. And maybe an eclipse buddy who will do chest compressions if need be. And when the phone lines go down or back up and the internet is back on, you have to save yourself. You have to focus on yourself. I don't think you can afford to be trying to save your friends and resist the system and save yourself at the same time. You must be able to survive next week and live to tell about it. You might not have the strength to be a keyboard warrior anymore, assuming you survive. And then to all my conspiracy friends, heart issues equals weak blood vessels, on blood thinners, on statins, on diets, using supplements, potentially even smoke cannabis. At some point, you're going to have to stop resisting the system. Those in the conspiracy world, you better know that you know better than anyone else what the system is doing. It's time to save yourself and not strangers, because strangers don't care about you. You must care about yourself. Yes, people with diabetes are more likely to develop a cardiovascular disease, also known as heart disease. People with diabetes are 2 to 4 times more likely to develop CVD than others. CVD can lead to heart attacks and strokes and affect circulation, which makes other diabetes complications worse. Approximately 50 to 60 million Americans take one or more blood thinners. The majority, 47 million, take over-the-counter aspirin. In 2020, approximately 14.2 million people aged 12 or older met the diagnostic criteria for a cannabis use disorder within the past year. It is estimated that 1 in 10 adults who use marijuana will develop a cannabis use disorder, with a higher risk for people who begin using marijuana before the age of 18. According to the American Heart Association, about 40 million adults in the United States take statin drugs to lower their LDLs, cholesterol levels, and reduce their risk of heart disease and stroke. Statins also help lower triglycerides and blood fats and raise HDL, good cholesterol. Well, if you release the demons, you wouldn't have to do that. But now you're seeing that they're making people's blood thinner through all the statins. They don't have an immune system because that's what those triglycerides and all that stuff. It's not bad. It's only bad relative to a clogged up, corked up intestinal and immune system and blood vessels. And so, yeah, those on statins, this is really grim. All right, now we're talking about that. And so, oh yeah, with the whole thing with Marin County, yeah. I told you about how ULF activating certain genetics. Isolating frequencies in a very specific area gives scientists data to work with. So when they said there's a high amount of breast cancer in Marin County at 2012, yeah, that was a control group. That they didn't even know they were being under experimentation. It's not like those genetics were only in that area. Marin County was just a control group. And this area is full of Caucasian women who have babies, the Stepford wives. Imagine running a control group like this in other areas of the country. Increasing ULF, triggering cancer in people, and is perfectly safe, especially if it's based upon an acceptable statistical method of margin of error. That's why anything that's FDA approved, EPA approved, and so on and so forth is fine for certain people and not fine for others. And you won't know which side of that you stand on. Oh well, that's why doctors practice medicine. That's why science is never settled. Something always comes up and changes. And the rupture and rapture. You see how the system conditions people for something to come. So LAD Bible, which is basically IFL science and whatever. Conspiracy theorists believe upcoming solar eclipse will start a massive human sacrifice event. Oh, they're mocking it. Rapture. You see how the system conditions people for something to come. They characterize it in a joke. Watch the people get lit up. Very strategic. Then you don't feel too bad when it happens to these people, those who make jokes. The diet suddenly population and the turbo cancer population should be a clear indicator regardless of who you blame it on and what you blame it on. Okay? Ruptured blood vessels is died suddenly. The truth about cannabis, weed, CBD, coupled with the use of supplements vasoconstrict, vasodilate blood vessels, forcing the body to function. Like therapy, forcing the body to do things against its will. Thin blood, weak blood vessels, then using supplements to force the blood vessels to open and close, causing more aggressive weakening and then rupturing. You might have enough substance to you to handle some blood vessels bursting, but you need milk, meat, cheese, eggs, and all food to reinforce your blood vessels and pull out the crap in your body to make room for new life or build back better and to relieve the pressure. Now you know why the system got many people hooked on cannabis. Not only is it a blood thinner, but the pain of the pressure releasing demons and pushing demons to the filter is unbearable to people. What's the filter? Like your liver. Or kidneys. So the system figured out a way to thin your blood and not let you condition your blood vessels to be strong enough for climate change. So when you have thin blood, then you have a thin body. You have a lot of blood, good blood, thick blood. You might feel pain, but you have a thicker body. That's your immune system. 2 for the price of 1, right? Weak blood vessels and thin blood, rapture. Cannabis to cancer patients was why people died from cannabis and cancer. The cures weakened the cancer patients, and taking food away also helped weaken the cancer patients. I wish I knew this 5 years ago. Damn it, I'm so sorry. Weed cannabis is only a painkiller for so long until there is nothing left to kill, and the painful energy of the body trying to release the demons becomes unbearable. Hospice and using morphine are used to end their suffering, which is why you see bleeding under the skin in hospice patients. Blood vessels burst inside the body. The system does not want to cater to that any type of trajectory of aggressive treatments, suffering, and so aggressive climate change will cause an event. You hope you survive, and maybe, just maybe, you might finally turn to food, rest, and release, and no more cannabis, drugs, or liquor to self-medicate. Which is why I stay away from weed and cannabis and drugs in general. And no more alcohol for me. I'm done with that. I can never go out like that, ever. And if you are hooked on cannabis right now, do you think you'll have a chance to survive next week? You know how strong your body is. How much of a tolerance to pain and suffering do you have? Can you pull the crap out of your lower immune system? Can you handle coughing and sneezing and blowing your nose? I don't know. That's why I got very mad at all you holistic people selling remedies and supplements to your friends. But you do not know any better. Ignorance is only an excuse one time. Once you know, I hope it was worth it. And I hope we all learned our lesson, because it will be a very aggressive, hard lesson. Ruptured blood vessels is died suddenly. Bleeding, hemorrhage from veins can be frightening, and risk of repeated rupture is very high. And you see a picture of some ankle that has ruptured veins. And so I said cannabis thins your blood, which means weak blood vessels rupture and people could bleed out. Marijuana has been shown to have some anticoagulant properties and may act as a natural blood thinner. Not much research has been done to examine the reason why, but cannabinoids appear to impact the ways in which platelets clot. That should be fucking scary for most of the population stuck on cannabis. And so then I said, the rapture is blood vessel rupture, heart attacks, strokes, die suddenly from aggressive climate change. Why do you think people are on blood thinners? Because their blood vessels are too narrow and weak. Their blood is too thick with microbes. And when you take vasodilators and vasoconstrictors, forcing blood vessels to do what it's not trained to do, aggressive energy conversion causes raptures. Don't hate me for this information, but if people don't survive next week, that's why they died. Their blood vessels cannot handle the climate change. They were not conditioned for the new environment. That's why I'm so concerned for survivors, because you know physiologically why people die. Starvation and weak blood vessels, causing death from heart attacks and strokes. So when you're watching your husband or wife or friend or family that you're around just drop like a fly, they had a blood vessel pop, and it caused a brain bleed, it caused a heart attack or a stroke. You can try to do chest compressions and try to pump stuff through and get their heart beating again, but do you know that? Would you be in presence of mind? Would you have the strength to do that for your friend or family that you're partying with? The physics of physiological resistance via blood vessels in the cardiovascular system. The beauty industry is very deceptive, and that's for a reason. Why do you think some people use filters on their profiles to hide the aggressive aging process? Why do women use makeup to hide the aggressive aging process? I don't care if you think I'm ugly. I don't care if you think I'm pretty. I have collagen. I have clear skin. My hair is still black. And I have no diagnosable conditions. I'm not losing aggressive amounts of weight. I'm not gaining extraordinary amounts of weight. When the environment changes, I might become puffier. When I release demons, I don't look as puffy. Which is also why I don't entertain people, because I take on their microbes and I become puffy. And when people are entertaining constant people around them, they start starving themselves because they don't want to gain weight, or the microbes are energy vampires aging them exponentially. That's also why I don't have animals. It wasn't like that before climate change, but now with this climate change, everything is accelerated, which is why my lifestyle has changed astronomically. When my husband comes home this weekend, I will blow up from those aggressive microbes he will bring home, and I will release. So I'm getting the luxury right now of not having to entertain diverse company. I am alone, and it's great, and you can see relative equilibrium. And my husband is worth suffering for in this environment, and it will make me stronger. That's why all of you are dealing with pain and suffering and aging aggressively, or using filters to hide the true situation going on, or you are using plastic surgery and a lot of makeup, or you have relative youth on your side. I am 50 years old and I don't have a lot of money. I don't use plastic surgery. I have zero health insurance. I have no food allergies, and I face pain and suffering. And I'm not trying to look hot and sexual. And I'm not all about love, 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 and I hate no one, and I have nothing to hide. As you can see in my face, I have enough energy to convert and expand and contract. I'm not too skinny or too overly abundant. Because when that time switch is flipped next week, I have strong enough blood vessels and intestines to deal with aggressive amounts of energy conversion, and I expect to feel pain next week. I'm not casting aspersions on men or women. I want you to see scientifically what you must deal with to survive. The beauty industry is very deceptive, and that's for a reason. When your blood vessels are too soft, they will burst through aggressive growth. They're not strong enough for accelerated growth. When you have too much resistance in your blood vessels, they break. That's why you can't be too soft or too hard in this environment. Because when that time switch is flipped by, oh my God. So when that time switch is flipped, oh my God, you have to have just enough expansion and contraction and strong enough blood vessels not to buckle under the pressure of aggressive climate change. And you must have an excellent release process so that way the pressure of growth doesn't burst the blood vessels. You might shit your pants. You might throw up, but that's better than a burst blood vessel in your heart or brain. But you might have some kind of bleeding under your skin. Too much resistance, broken blood vessels. The higher the resistance, the lower the current flow. If abnormally high, one possible cause among many could be damaged conductors due to burning or corrosion. All conductors give off some degree of heat, so overheating is an issue often associated with resistance. Yeah, remember all that heat we get when the climate changes? Too much resistance, broken blood vessels. Not enough resistance, broken blood vessels. In a circuit, if there is no resistance, the current will flow without opposition, and the voltage will be zero. That's 0 Kelvin. That's cured. That's entropy. That's died suddenly. This is because there is nothing to impede the flow of electrons, so they will continue to flow without any opposition. You have to be just right. It's a conditioning process. If you survive climate change, you must now allow your body to condition itself to deal with energy conversion. No different than conditioning for the Olympics externally. We are in the internal Olympics. You must have the proper amount of fat and muscle and wherewithal to deal with energy. And there's a picture of myself. And so I would rather you prepare for so much death and destruction than be traumatized from it. Survivors must be strong enough to handle it. Once a person is dead, they have nothing to worry about anymore. I worry about the survivors. If you're strong enough to face my information, if you survive, you might be strong enough to stay alive and survive. But you still have a long way to go. You still need the food. You still must release. You still have to worry about your community getting into your home. You still have to survive your friends and family committing you into another treatment. That was just the first step, is survival. Okay? That's what the system is building up for, is this day. ULF is invisible energy activated immune system therapies and even dies suddenly coupled with climate change, CERN HARP. That was the magic behind everything. Because you saw how activated you all became when the energy became even more aggressive from the micro to the macro. Climate change will make you stronger if it doesn't kill you via died suddenly after so many therapies and surgeries. Many people are like Hansel and Gretel before the witch threw them in the pot and ate them. Distracted by pleasure and paradise and munching on the gingerbread house, all love and light, being fattened up for the KILL. If you're lucky enough to feel something next week and this year, remember what I said. There is going to be a fork in the road. I hope you have what it takes to survive. You can't save people who are dead. You might have one more shot to redirect, and I don't mean the therapy-wise. You have one more chance. The time switch will be flipped next week and this whole year. Remember, they said a pandemic, another one, is looming on the horizon. Okay. I'm not going to worry about the whole helicopter parenting, whatever. All right. All right. Yeah. That's all I'm going to say, because the rest is kind of redundant. I'm just keep building on what I'm saying and building and building and building. That's the evolution of my information. It starts out from one point and I keep building, and I even get redundant because I have to drive these points home for myself and for you. So viruses are basically catalyzed by frequencies and energy that bring certain types of microbes together. No different than when you look at your community and look at who's hanging out together, who goes to what restaurants together, who goes to what churches together, who goes to what political persuasions together. There's a frequency, there's an algorithm, and that could be words, it could be mathematical symbols, it could be even frequency and energy. And all those work together, and that's why you have certain viruses that have certain algorithms with certain symptoms that people experience. And so it's the frequency that makes the virus. It's the frequency that will cause a die suddenly in those who have weak blood vessels. It's the frequency that is going to completely lay out a lot of people flat who are unsuspecting of what's going on. And your lifestyle, your belief system, and all that shit has set you up to either win or fail. And it's all relative to what you believe in. If you think that the rapture is great and you're going to go off into wherever, more power to you. Thank you for your service. If you think that you can survive the rupture that's going to happen at some point, that's been happening, then it's going to be a painful process of rebuild. And some people will say it's not worth it, and they'll keep resisting until another frequency just takes them out. And that's why you'll be faced with a fork in the road. At some point when you feel something, if you haven't felt something, you'll be faced with a choice. You treat that disease, or you eat food and pull out the crap and rest and relax and cut down your lifestyle, your belief system, your spending habits, and all that. And that's something you're going to have to figure out. So good luck to you. But now you see what viruses are. They're frequencies that bring certain microbes and people, place, and things together. Have a good day. Bye.